Alright, let's get into it. How did the premiere go? Well, it was good. It was everything you would come to expect from Primal. It was awesome. So, full spoilers, by the way. I don't really know how to talk about it without spoiling it, but in spoilers for the previous seasons. So obviously, at the end of season 2, Spear, Spear passed away and died, and this basically picks up kind of right where that left off. So characters like Fang and Mira are not in this episode. It's just mainly Spear focused, which I think that's a good idea to start the season like that. So basically, it starts with this old, I don't know who he is, this old man who, I guess his village burned down when the fire demon attacked at the end of season 2, I think. And you see him like kind of conjuring up this potion type thing, and eventually creates like a heart, like a zombie heart, a mutant zombie heart type thing. He then goes to the cave where Spear is resting and uses the potion magic, dark magic, I guess I would just call it that. I don't know if it is, but I'll just call it that, to basically bring Spear back to life in a zombie-like state. And he looks kind of cool. It's Spear's outline, but it's gray and just decayed looking, and it looks really cool. And the old man's eyes start glowing green like Spear's, so obviously you can tell that the old man is controlling Spear's lifeless body through the heart that he put in the staff. He then directs Spear to, I don't want to call it a village, but like this little clan of, I guess cave dwellers type, creatures, to fight them. And so zombie Spear just straddles over, and these zombie creatures they're pretty cool. They're like primitive man, but it looks like they have like ape skulls or some type of animal skulls with like, it almost looks like white dreadlocks in a way. They look really, really cool. And so Spear shows up, obviously, as he does, and just wrecks shop, just beats them. They can't fight him because he's a zombie, they can't hurt him. He's just wrecking shop, tearing through them, and one of the cave people, they see the old man with the spear just standing in the background. So he gets up, picks up a spear, throws it at the old man, and kills him. And that kind of, I guess, just like knocks the zombie Spear loose, like it breaks him from the spell. And that's when this cave dweller kind of like cuts off Spear's like the top of his head, which I thought was kind of funny. And not his brain, just like the top of his head. So his brain is exposed, and the guy just runs away because Spear didn't get hurt. He just stood there because he can't feel anything. So Spear doesn't get hurt, and the guy freaks out, runs away, and Spear kind of just looks around, and he's kind of like in a disoriented state, and just starts walking. You see Spear in the next couple scenes. You just see Spear kind of wandering around like the jungle, kind of just walking, doing about his business. He has no thoughts, which is kind of sucks. He's just like a lifeless corpse. Eventually we see some elephants and some gazelle. They run away when they hear Spear's coming. Zombie Spear goes to the water. He looks in. He sees that he sees himself finally in the water's reflection, that he's not like what he used to. He looks decayed and dead. He's touching himself like, oh my god, what do I look like? How do I look like this? Then a giant, like I guess prehistoric crocodile. I don't know if it's a Deinosuchus, which is like an ancient crocodile, but it's a big crocodile. Swallows Spear, brings him back down. Spear rips out his tongue, and the crocodile dies. And Spear gets up out of the water, kind of disoriented still, keeps walking, and eventually the next scene, and this is where Spear, he starts to have like flashbacks, not really I guess you can call them flashbacks of it, like the real Spear's life. He sees like his kids running in the background, but this zombie Spear doesn't know what that means. He doesn't know what it is. He's just having these thoughts, and he doesn't know what's going on. So he sees this guy drowning in the water. He runs over, grabs him, saves him, and that's where you find out it's like these weird, like zombie. I don't want to call them zombie, but these weird like mutated humanoid people. Like they kind of look like, I don't know how to best describe them. Like they look like mush, if that makes sense. When you see him, like it makes sense. And Spear touches his face, then he touches the dude's face, then he touches his face like, whoa, you're kind of like me. And I guess the guy takes a liking to Spear and says, follow me, which eventually leads back to the dude leading Spear back to his camp, and you find out, there's more of these people. They're like a little tribe, and I can't be the only one who thought these are like the Sand people from Star Wars. Both the ones that go like, and then like the little, like, not Ewok, but the little ones with like the Jawas, I think they're called, with like the trash people. Like, they look kind of like a cross between those two, in my opinion. And Spear's walking around, he's like, oh my god, like, basically civilization type thing. And they invite Spear, and they invite Spear into their home, into their tribe, and they give him a hut, and he sits down, and he still continues to have visions. He remembers like some type of symbol, so he sees a scorpion walking in the sand, and that's when he notices, oh, you can like kind of like, he pokes his finger and he notices, oh, you can like draw. So he draws this symbol that he keeps remembering in the sand. And the next scene, which I'm gonna be honest, I didn't really expect it, was these, I don't know what you call them, like these raiders, like these horse raiders, I guess. These people on horses come in and they just start slaughtering these, I'm just gonna call them sand people or dune people, whatever you want to call them. They start slaughtering them, just killing them one by one, slash. Spear sees this and steps up and goes, I need to help them, kind of, and just goes berserk, just beating these people, throwing horses. They're stabbing him, they're not hurting him because he can't be hurt. And they're like, whoa, like, what is this thing? And Spear keeps going, slap, slash, and all this. It's super cool. It's a cool fight scene. And there's a cool scene where he gets on a horse and he starts riding it, and he has a flashback to him riding Fang, and he's kind of like, well, like, I've been here before, like, almost like deja vu. And the scene ends basically with one of the sand people slicing Spear, doesn't kill him, and there's two of them that look at each other like, wait, like, this thing's not dying? Like, oh my god, what do we do? And they just decide to run away. What else do I want to say? The last scene of the episode is Spear wandering the desert, just right after that fight. He's looking up at the moon. The sand guy comes up and says, hey, follow me, like, my village is hurt, help me. But Spear hears a roar in the background, which I don't believe it's Fang. The show implied that it is. I don't think it is. I think it's just some creature. But Spear hears the roar and immediately remembers Fang. So he has another flashback of Fang roaring, and he recognizes that roar, and he just kind of looks confused, like, oh my god, like, I know that. And he walks down the sand dune following that roar, and that's where the episode ends. That's basically that. That's a quick, kind of long-winded recap. Yeah, but overall, great episode, great season premiere. I cannot wait for the next episode. They come out every Sunday, so it's kind of cool to have a show that you can look forward to watching every week. The last show that I have with this is Landman, and that's ending, I think, next Sunday. Landman ends, so it's great that a new show started, so I can still have something to look forward to weekly. But yeah, what are your guys' thoughts? Did you like the episode? Did you not? Comment below, like and subscribe, and let me know. We're halfway through Primal Season 3, and I gotta say, the first half has been a little slow to get going in some parts, but has really picked up in episodes 4 and 5. But I have a feeling that we're just getting started, and the next half is going to be absolutely bonkers. What's cracking, my rock and rollers? Today we're going to be discussing the first half of Season 3 of Primal. Full spoilers for the first 5 episodes ahead. I already did a video for the first episode of the season, so I won't go too much into detail here, but I really liked it. It was exciting to see what was going to happen with Spear this season, since he died at the end of Season 2. Him being revived by that witch doctor and going about his day exploring the world was a real nice touch to start the season. I didn't do reviews for the next couple episodes because nothing really big happened in them except for episode 4, which I watched a bit late, so I decided to wait until episode 5 came out and do a review of the first half of the whole season. I'll do brief recaps / main highlights of episodes 2 through 5 now, so let's begin. Episode 2 continues Spear's journey into being revived. You mainly see him interacting with the jungle and slowly learning to become more human. The main part of episode 2 is that Spear encounters these lions that he has to fight, and it's an awesome fight. They're all jumping on him and he's fighting them off. It's super cool. The fight ends when the big leader lion comes out and challenges Spear. The two of them duke it out in a bare knuckle fight, and Spear ends up winning when he finds a spear on one of the ancient statues around the place they are fighting in. Here's where we see Spear slowly start figuring out who he used to be. He uses the spear to impale the lion and wins. That's basically the episode. The main part of episode 3 is that Spear finds an insect creature who he mistakes for Fang because of flashbacks he's having. He keeps having these visions of his past life with Fang roaring and seeing the stripes on her body in his visions. He sees an insect with those same markings and decides to follow it and become friends with it. He ends up in this underground cave of some sorts and encounters these gremlin goblin creatures. I don't really know what to call them, but they're basically like just little devil monsters. They're really freaky looking, mainly because they have no eyes, they just go off a sound, which is a really interesting touch. They end up capturing Spear and are waiting to kill and eat him, but suddenly Spear wakes up and breaks free. While he was asleep, one of the creatures was eating his hand, and his right hand is now just completely bone because of it. Spear breaks free and begins to fight the creatures to escape. During the fight, an insect comes down, the same one Spear was following, again with the same markings that reminds him of Fang. The creatures start chasing after the insect and one of them ends up killing the poor bug. Spear sees this and becomes very angry and goes on a massacre, which is always awesome to see. He grabs the spear he finds and brings the hammer down on these creatures. During the fight, he gets wounded around his waist and has to get a piece of cloth to wrap around the wound. Here is where we really get to see Spear slowly start becoming his old self again. The first 3 episodes were very interesting to start off the season with, but there was one huge thing missing, and that was Fang and the others. Luckily, episode 4 solves that problem, and we get a whole episode dedicated to them alone. This episode mainly serves as a flashback to what happened after Spear died at the end of season 2. The episode starts off with Spear's funeral, and we see Mira and the others all mourning and putting on a big show to honor Spear. Fang sees this and is in tears, which was heartbreaking to see. Mira stands over Spear's corpse and puts her hand on it to show how much she misses him. We then get some scenes of Fang's baby T-Rexes running around the village trying to eat chickens and playing with a child in the village. That was really nice to see. It was funny when Fang gets mad at the child for throwing a spear at one of her babies and she roars at him and the child runs away screaming. The next scene is where shit hits the fan and the main plot going forward for the season starts, in my opinion. At night, when everyone is asleep, the child who was playing with Fang's babies wakes up and goes outside to practice with the spear when all of a sudden these giant pig hyena creatures appear and start terrorizing the village. These creatures are gnarly looking. Like I said, they're basically giant hyenas mixed with feral hogs of pigs. Really cool design. The creatures start attacking everyone. Fang and the others show up and Fang takes one of them out while her babies take out another one. One of the creatures ends up taking the child that woke up and jumps over the wall and runs away. Other creatures grab other people and run away with them. The next scene is Mira and the others forming a search party to go and get them back, with Fang and her children tagging along to help. The next couple of scenes go back and forth showing what the hogs are doing and what Mira and her team are doing. The creatures we see are traveling across the plains to a giant rock cave structure thing, and they take the child and the others they took inside and drop them into a giant pit where you see more people they've taken are trapped. They drop the child in, and then out of the shadows a giant all-white albino hyena hog shows up. The other creatures start going wild, indicating that the white one is the alpha of the group. It sits down and has smaller creatures drink milk from its 8 udders it has. The episode jumps back to Mira and the others while they were continuing their quest, and they stumble upon the graveyard that Spear left behind when he first awoke in the first episode. This was such a nice callback. It was so cool seeing Mira and the others fighting the remains of the first battle we, the audience, saw in the season. Mira finds the old man that resurrected Spear and closes his eyes that were open, showing respect for his passing. The 2 guys that are with Mira find the old man's staff and see a heart in it and start doing this voodoo ritual chant, making him fire. Those guys are funny. The episode ends in the next scene where the main team is camping and getting ready to call it a night when they hear something in the bushes. Fang hears it and moves out in front to see what it is. Mira and the others look on wondering what it could be. The last scene is that we see Spear come out of the bushes out of nowhere and is suddenly reunited with the group. Mira looks shocked and Fang roars and the episode ends. This was such a really good episode. It was nice to finally see Fang after not seeing her for so long. I really liked that it was a flashback episode that showed the events that took place after Spear's funeral, with the characters we haven't seen this season yet. Such an interesting and fun way to bring them in this season. The actual reunion was wild to me because of how sudden it was. Spear literally just appears and then boom, the gang is together. I was thinking we were going to follow Spear for most of the season and have him brought back to his normal self, and then somehow at the end, near the end of the season is where we get the reunion and the gang gets back together for the final showdown against the enemies. And that idea sounds so dumb now when you watch this episode and see the direction they're going in and why they're doing it. Episode 5 picks up right after episode 4 ends. Mira comes up to Spear and tries to get him to say the name Mira, but he just yells in her face. Fang interrupts and roars in Spear's face, and he has flashbacks of the lions roaring and the vision of Fang roaring he's been having before, since he knows the roar. The next scene is Spear trying to explain in caveman talk what has happened to him by just grunting and throwing his arms around in all directions like leaving Fang and Mira totally confused. Mira teaches Spear how to sit down, and he sits down and plays with rocks to try to explain it to them even further. Mira sits down with him and shows him her belly to try to jog his memory. Spear just looks confused at it, not knowing what to think. She draws a picture in the dirt trying to explain the fact that she's pregnant with his child, but again, he doesn't realize this and just yells in her face. The next scene follows the group deciding to leave, with Spear deciding to follow them in the back. The team gets to a resting spot since Fang's babies are tired and need to rest. Spear sits down with Mira and Fang roars in his face again, basically telling him to get away, and Spear yells back and they get into the screaming match when all of a sudden a pig, a regular pig, not one of the mutant ones we saw earlier, comes out of the bushes and sees them. Spear and Fang look at the pig, it runs away, and they decide to chase it. This scene was so awesome because it was such a nice callback to the first season around the time these two first met and were building their friendship. Fang chases it, she looks over and sees Spear doing his iconic run, also chasing after it. Both are closing in, but Fang gets the upper hand when she decides to run up a giant tree trunk and jump off of it to try to land on the hog. She almost gets it when a spear suddenly punctures the hog and it dies. Spear is the winner of the race, but Fang decides that's not cool and takes the hog and destroys it by biting it in pieces. Spear throws his spear up, getting ready to throw down. Fang starts roaring back, and it looks like they're going to tussle when all of a sudden they hear screaming coming from the camp. They get back to the others and see that they're being attacked by giant baboons. Mira and the babies are doing their best to fight off the baboons, while the other two guys with them aren't so lucky and end up dying. Spear and Fang charge in to help even the fight, and the battle commences. They chase the baboons down after they get a hold of Mira and try to escape. What follows is a funny scene where Spear tries to get them, but he keeps falling off the trees, so he has to get back, run up again, fall, try again, run up, fall, try again, until he finally gets it. It was funny seeing Spear run back while Fang and her babies look confused like, what the hell is this dude doing? Spear finally gets to the top of the trees and immediately starts taking out the baboons. One gets a spear right through the heart and the other one starts running, and you see Spear take out the one behind that one, slowly making his way to the front of the line. Other baboons join the fight and end up tackling Spear, pinning him down, but as we've learned to come from this show, you can't keep Spear down. Oh no, you cannot. Spear lunges them all off and does this fucking awesome move where he grabs a spear and swings it around, killing all the baboons in like one go. And while this happens, it's an above shot, so you see like, Spear in the middle and all the baboons around him, which is very reminiscent of other movies we've seen. It then ends on this awesome shot of Spear standing over all the carnage he just produced and the bodies he just destroyed. Damn, what a cool shot. The baboon that has Mira continues running and ends up taking her back to their nest and drops her in, and there are baby baboons in there waiting for her, and they start attacking her. She grabs some skeleton bones to try to defend herself. She then fights off the babies and escapes by running across the giant tree trunk that's laying flat. She almost gets to the other side where baboons appear and knock her off. She grabs a vine to save herself, but the baboons end up pulling her up, and you think Mira is a goner when Spear appears and kills the baboons. Mira falls and Spear jumps down to save her. He catches her and they fall to the ground, with Spear being on the bottom when they hit the ground extremely hard. Mira gets up and Fang and her babies show up to see if if Spear's okay and still alive. He is, and he gets back up. All seems good except for when his right arm starts to fall off. Mira sews it back together while Fang starts staring at them angrily. The babies run up to Spear, rub against him, showing that they trust him and like him. This angers Fang, who growls, but Spear just sits there with a goofy smile on his face. Mira sits down with him and tries to get Spear to say Mira again, and he just yells at her like he always does. That's essentially how the episode ends. Really good episode. It's so nice seeing Spear and Fang united, even though it's not 100% the same, given the fact that Spear is still a zombie. The first couple episodes were a slow burn, showing Spear dealing with the fact that he's a zombie, what to do, but now it's turning back into more of the Primal we know and love. I'm really curious to see what the next 5 episodes are going to entail. Obviously, the team is going to have to find the hyena hog creatures and have a showdown with them and the big mother one and save the other people that got kidnapped. The main thing I'm curious about is how Spear becomes human again, because obviously that's going to happen, right? It has to. Throughout the first couple episodes, we get these vision scenes where Zombie Spears runs into Human Spirit, and you can tell he recognizes it, but not quite 100% how. Whatever happens, I have faith in Genndy Tartakovsky, as he's proven he knows exactly what he's doing. You just know there is some giant payoff happening that's going to happen, that's going to blow everyone away. You can just feel it in these episodes that they're laying the groundwork for an exceptional season finale, and I cannot wait to see it. More importantly though, what have you guys thought of this first half of Season 3? Please like and subscribe and comment below and let me know your thoughts and what you think is going to happen going forward in the season. What's cooking, my rock and rollers? Today we're going to jump right into it, do a little quick video. We are going to be talking about the last 2 episodes of the newest season of Primal, which I've done a few videos on my channel on. But today we're going to talk about the 2 newest episodes, episodes 6 and 7. So let's get into it. Episode 6 was the one that premiered, last week? And basically the main thing that happened was Spear, Fang, and the others finally defeated, not finally, but they defeated the, like the hyena hog creatures. And that was pretty much it. That was like the main thing that happened in the episode. The fight was cool, all the blood and everything. Yes, with the fight, like I said, Spear took a few of them out. It was cool seeing Fang take out like the big, like the mama hyena. That was pretty cool. The other part of the episode which I really liked was Spear still trying to like jumpstart Fang's memories, like, hey, like, remember me? Like, there's one scene where he brings her water, she just looks at him and roars at him, so he goes, oh man, that doesn't work. So he goes back and gets like, like these little like bugs, grub for her to eat, and again, she doesn't take it, but of course the children do. The little baby T-Rexes, man, they're so adorable and awesome. They come up and drink all the water, the food. That was cool. And then that's pretty much all that episode is. Not much really happened, that's why I didn't do a video about it. The episode ended with like Mira getting not knocked out, but like a scar on her leg. She got injured, so she was kind of, asleep from the pain, I guess. And that's where the episode ended. And now we'll move into episode 7, which is the one that came out a few days ago. And man, a lot of stuff happened in this one. Let's get right into it. So episode 7 starts off with, it was this cool shot of like Fang running. You see like the camera kind of moving, and you look back, you see the babies and Spear all running, and you can tell that Mira is on top of Fang, and they're like rushing her to the village to so she can get some help. It jumps to the next scene, and they get to the village. They set Mira down, like the shaman doctor like leans in to see if she's okay, and she is. She looks back and smiles at everybody, and like Fang and the babies and everything, they all say, okay, cool, like it's all good, like she's safe. The next scene is the villagers outside start freaking out, and we see that like the zombie Spear stumbles in, and the villagers are freaking out. Oh my god, what is that? They're throwing food at him and like spears. And there was one funny scene where like a warrior dude stabs Spear through the chest, and of course he's a zombie, so he can't feel anything. He just turns around and like bitch slaps the dude clear across like the pavement. That was pretty funny. Again, the villagers keep throwing spears, they keep throwing rocks at him because they don't know who he is, they don't remember him. So Spear has to run over like the edge of the cliff rock thing, and he runs down and he's escaping the villagers. He runs in the forest like, okay, I'm safe. The next scene transitions to like a huge thunderstorm starts coming up, and starts raining, and the whole place is like dark and dreary. It's nighttime. Spear walks up, and we get this awesome silhouette shot of Spear standing in the rain with like the glowing red eyes and like the bone hand you can see. Oh, it just looks so cool. He stumbles back in, everyone's inside, away from the rain, and he stumbles back in, looks around, and he sees like the hut where Mira is, and he sees light coming from the bottom, so he walks there. But Fang steps in front of it, and we get this shot from the trailer, which I think, if I remember correctly, this was the only shot from the main season 3 trailer that we haven't seen yet in the show up until this point. This is like the last one that they showed that was in that trailer, so that was cool. So that really means the next 3 episodes are going to be all brand new footage. We haven't seen anything. I think, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that means the next 3 episodes are going to be all brand new footage, which is going to be so awesome. Scene continues, obviously Fang steps in front, like I said. She stares at Spear, he stares back. She roars at him, and he doesn't move, and starts yelling back, and getting like this cool screaming match. The villagers start showing up with the torches and pitchforks, all charging Spear. He runs away over that wall again, down the cliff, runs in the forest. He thinks he's safe, he's like huffing and puffing, he looks back. This time they follow him in the forest, so he's not safe, he runs even further.
The scene then transitions to Mira sitting upright, like she's woken up from her, like, not rest, but like, getting knocked out because of the battle, and the baby's still okay and everything. And she looks around outside, no one really is doing anything. She looks over and she sees like all the guards standing guard looking down, and she looks at the forest wondering like, hey, what's going on? And then the next scene, that kid, I don't know the name of it, that little Afro kid that was in the hyena hog pit that one of the hyenas took a couple episodes ago, comes back and hugs Mira, and it starts to explain to her. This is actually pretty funny. Starts like acting out the events, what happened. Like she starts walking like, ooh, like spear and doing the T-Rex or Fang. That was pretty cool to jog Mira's memory. Like, hey, this is what happened. Like, this is why everyone's acting up. Mira understands it, grabs the spear, decides to go get him. Fang and the babies look like, hey, what are you doing? You're not gonna leave without us. And they go find Spear. The next scene is probably my favorite scene of the whole series so far. Maybe not series, definitely the season. Series is a high bar, but definitely the season. So Spear is walking, he's safe from the villagers for now. He stumbles into like this waterfall area, and he looks at his reflection in the mirror, and he freaks out because he finally sees what he looks like. But he starts looking again, and the longer he looks, the old Spear like starts looking back, like he sees the old, his real self, so to speak, in the water's reflection, and he freaks like, oh, what? And he's looking around, like looking left and right, all the different waterfall streams, and one of them he sees Fang, like a reflection of Fang, who's not there. It's just like in his memory, looking at him. She roars, it kind of scares him. He walks back into the waterfall, like into the the cave. Now this was cool. He runs into like, I don't know what you describe it, like a spirit Fang? That's the only way I can describe it. Like, it's not real. She's not really there, but it's like an amalgamation with his memory or something like that. I thought it was super cool, like this blue glow. It looks really cool, especially in motion. So he puts his hands up, hey, don't eat me, like, I'm a good guy. And the scene that followed was pretty good. So he's trying to like, jog Fang's memory to remind her like, hey, this is who I am. And he sees like the old Spirit as reflection in one of the waterfalls behind him. He runs up to like align himself up with it, and shows like, hey, like, look, like, we're the same, we're twins, like, it's me. And she looks, nothing happens, and then there's this awesome scene where he runs behind the old, like the old Spirit. He runs behind that reflection. You see the old Spirit, and the new one pops out like, hey, like, see, like, we're the same, huh? And this clone Spirit Fang roars and it kind of freaks Spear out, and then we get this awesome shot right here. So we've seen this scene of multiple variations of the scene throughout the series, but we see Fang on the left. Spear puts his hand on her, like on her face, explaining to her like, hey, I'm a good guy, I'm not here to hurt you. And it transitions between like the real Spear, like his human form, and the zombie Spear, like indicating it's the same person, yada yada, like I've said. And then this is another cool shot. So it's the classic scene, Spear and Fang's back, the Spear, yeah, going into battle, except it's the zombie Spear this time, like you just see like the bone hand, and you kind of light see him holding a spear in his left hand. And he starts like not really pretend fighting, but he sees like, I guess, visions, and he's fighting off the waterfall, and he falls off the waterfall into the water down below. The next scene transitions to like the other group, Mira, Fang, and the baby T-Rexes coming to the waterfall, looking up. Kind of Fang is sniffing, like, oh, like she senses Spear's scent. Sorry. Mira freaks out when she looks at the waterfall cliff, like, oh my god, like he probably fell over, like, oh my god. And then she finds this like part of his like the cloth that he did after he fought those like gremlin creatures in the cave. She finds that, and I think it was one of the babies finds it, gives it to her, and she obviously recognizes it, so she knows that he went this way. The next scene is the final scene of the episode, I should say. And this scene was very interesting for what the future, I guess not the future, but the next episode holds. Is you see Spear in like this, I guess, tar, like this mud tar is what I think it is, and he wakes up, he vomits out the tar, looks around, he's in like this volcanic, just dead area of whatever planet they're on or continent, and the ground starts shifting. He looks down, the ground breaks apart because it's like a volcanic setting, tectonic plates. He sees lava flowing through, and he looks around like, oh my god, what's this? And he has a really cool like flashback of like the zombie brontosaurus that him and Fang encountered in season 1, the one that was like it was infected by the virus and they had to like kill it with lava. He has that not reflection, but that why can't I just memory? Let's just call it that. He has that memory. I don't know why it was, I don't know why it took me so long, but whatever. He continues walking after he steps over like the rock. So like there's a rock and lava, he steps over it to the other side. He continues walking and he uncovers and discovers like these like skulls on like posts in the ground, and there's multiple. Like this one looks like a monkey. You can see a humanoid-esque one looking on like the right one, another monkey one in the middle, I guess, and some other creature on the left. And the camera pans out and there's this huge crater, and Spears on the other side. So Spears right here, kind of in the bottom right on one side. He looks over and we got this new, I guess, man-ape creatures, what it looks like to me anyway, like, which is gonna be super cool what this means for the next episode. And we do got a clip that was been online, I think it was IGN, where, let me see, let me pull it up here on my end anyway. So yeah, so the clip shows there's more of them. Like the episode ended with just one, but there's a whole like village of them all looking down. And this like old looking one, we're gonna all look kind of old, but this older looking one walks out with a crown, shows it up. They all kind of go wild, like ooh, indicating it's some kind of tournament style. And the other clip, maybe that was another clip. This new clip is the one from IGN, I think, where it has this big clay looking monster and Spears jumping on him, fighting, and gets a big old club and clubs, and it's a huge tournament fight. So that's gonna be super interesting to see what happens. It reminded me, that one like short 1-minute clip reminded me a lot of that, I think it was season 1, where like Spear took like the Hulk juice and he fought the gorilla with the Triceratops skull. That was one of my favorite scenes in the whole show. So it's gonna be really interesting to see how that episode plays out, and also more interesting because it's episode 7, so we got 3 more. Because I mean, they gotta have Spear regain like his human form at the end, right? Like they have to. Like, there's no way they wouldn't. Because my first prediction was, I honestly thought that the show was gonna like end with like the hyena hogs. That was gonna be the rest of the season, but they wrapped that up in one episode. So I was like, oh wow, so like we have a whole new basic storyline I didn't expect last 4. This one, I just did the recap, and at least episode 8 looks like it's gonna be some tournament. So maybe these ape creatures have like a potion or something that Spear drinks and jogs his memory or something like that. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. So that was basically my recap and review. I'm loving the season so far, but the bigger question is, what do you guys think? Please like and subscribe, comment below, and let me know. Doesn't it suck when a show you were watching goes off the air and you're left with having nothing to watch and nothing to look forward to week to week? That just happened with me with Primal. What's rockin' my rock and rollers? Today we're going to be discussing the season 3 finale of Primal. Let's jump right into it. I already did multiple videos on my channel of season 3 so far, so I won't recap the whole thing, but the last episode I talked about was episode 7, so I'll briefly go over episodes 8 and 9 here before the finale, so let's get started. Episode 8, there's not really much that happened in terms of like enough to talk about. Just a bunch of fighting. Episode 7 ended with Spear walking into this volcanic deserted area and meeting these primitive tribal people. Episode 8 was basically about how this tribe puts on a tournament where someone they choose has to fight people from the tribe and other tribes as well. Whoever wins the fight gets to wear this crown and drink this black goo substance. I believe this is the same black goo from that episode of the first season where Spear fought that gorilla with the Triceratops skull. As the episode progresses, you see Spear beating more and more enemies and getting more of that black goo. That's essentially all that happened in episode 8. Episode 9 was about the same in terms of we still see Spear fighting more and more enemies and drinking more of that black goo. But this time, we finally get to see what that goo is doing to him. We see him get his original eye color back, and his skin turns from that dead green look he's had because he's been a zombie to more of his natural normal color. The goo is basically regenerating him, so to speak. The other major thing that happened in this episode is that Mira finally gives birth to her and Spear's child, which turns out to be a daughter. While this is happening, keep in mind Spear is still miles away in that area and hasn't seen the child or has no idea that the child is even born. He becomes more and more of his normal self as the episode progresses, and he starts remembering that Mira was carrying a little person inside of her, which he remembers and decides to draw on the cave walls. He tames one of the pterodactyls that one of his opponents rode in on. He beat the opponent and stole his ride basically, and flies back home. When he arrives, he notices the child and doesn't know how to act, so he leaves. Mira wakes up and sees the pterodactyl flying off in the distance and goes to get some scrolls to find out where he's heading to. She looks and sees like this mountain, drawing, and decides to get the others together to go find him. Back at the Volcano Tribe people, Spear continues fighting, but this time during the fights, he's having visions of the baby that's interrupting his fighting and distracting him. During one of the fights, he notices a totem-looking thing on one of the enemy's staff. He defeats the enemy and takes that, and he also defeats another enemy and has like long red hair. He cuts some of the hair off and decides to combine the totem with the hair to make like a little toy for his daughter to give to her when he meets her. He runs back to the cave, and the tribal leader walks in and tries to give Spear a tribal woman. Spear yells in her face, which is classic Spear, and runs to the pterodactyl and flies away to find Mira and the others. The episode ends on a cliffhanger where we see Mira, Fang, and the baby T-Rexes walking through the jungle. There's this nice moment where one of the baby T-Rexes has the baby like on its back, and the other Rex like grabs the baby by the diaper, throws her onto his back, and the other T-Rex looks around and like roars at him like sibling brotherly love, which is kind of touching to see. The next scene is basically Fang and Mira hear something in the distance, and all of a sudden this, I guess, possessed bear or wolf creature, appears and starts brutally attacking Fang and trying to get the others as well. The babies try to jump in to help Fang, but she won't let them, and that's basically how the episode ends. It's a cliffhanger. Now that the recap for episodes 8 and 9 are done, let's get into the finale. The finale opens with Spear flying on the pterodactyl trying to find Mira and the others. He lands and sees foot tracks and follows them. He arrives at the spot where the last episode ended with the fight between Fang and the creature. There's blood everywhere, and Spear looks worried, and he notices baby footprints on the ground and decides to follow them. He follows them and finds the wolf impaled on a large tree branch. We get a brief flashback where it showed that during the fight, Fang got the upper hand and smacked the wolf with her tail and impaled him on the branch. Spear continues looking around where he hears something in the background. He walks forward towards the noise and finds the group recovering from their wounds. Mira notices him and runs over to him, and she notices that he looks more like his normal self. This was great visual storytelling because there's no dialogue in this scene or this whole show basically. Mira looks at his head where his brain was exposed earlier the last time she saw him, and looks at his mouth where everything looks to be like normal and healthy now. She hugs him, and man, this moment was wholesome. Seeing Spear finally get back to being human, or at least closer to human than what he was, and finally reuniting with Mira was just so awesome to see. It gets even better when the baby T-Rexes run over and push Mira out of the way, and as they want their turn with Spear. The moment gets even better because now Spear finally gets to meet his daughter face to face for the first time, and man, like I said earlier, so much wholesomeness. The child looks at Spear with those big cute eyes, and Spear holds up his skull hand and immediately freaks out like, oh my god, I don't want to freak the kid out, and then holds up his normal left hand to try to wave at her. The baby stares and then puts her hand against Spear's, creating like the father-daughter bond, first contact between father and daughter. I want to take a moment to discuss how heartfelt this scene is. We've spent the whole season watching Spear lose himself, slowly gaining his true self back, while also knowing he'll have to meet his daughter eventually. And to finally see this moment after all that build up and what Spear has gone through is just a fantastic payoff. The next moment is just as wholesome because Fang is seriously wounded, and Spear walks up to her and places his hand on her nose. She smells it, recognizes it, and tries to get up, but Spear stops her and embraces her, and again, another wholesome moment. These two have been through so much together, and now after being separated for the longest time, they're finally reunited. The moment doesn't last long as everyone in the group is shot with these tranquilizer darts, so to speak, and the next scene, Spear wakes up back in the tribal people's coliseum. I guess they didn't appreciate Spear leaving them and decided to follow them to get him back. Spear looks up and sees the tribal leader holding his daughter and tries to get her, but he realizes he's chained to the ground. He looks in front of him where Fang, the baby Rexes, and Mira are lying unconscious. He notices that the tribal people are making all of them drink that same black goo. When all this happens, they all start to mutate. First, the baby Rexes mutate and become these essentially large green dinosaurs that are stronger now. Mira mutates into this giant gray-green creature, and lastly, Fang mutates into this awesome looking T-Rex with a bunch of spikes coming out of her back. Her color scheme reminded me of that old Imaginext T-Rex toy from back in the day. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about, but Imaginext was this toy company that had, or this toy line about these dinosaurs. I remember specifically that toy, that T-Rex, had a blue and red color scheme similar to Fang's design, and her design looks very similar to that. I don't know if that was intentional or if the people who designed this knew about that toy line, but it was such a nice callback for me personally because I love that toy line and especially love that T-Rex as a kid, so it was just such a nice callback to my childhood. Obviously, the tribal people want Spear to fight and win the fight, but of course Spear doesn't want to because these are his family. So he tries his best to beat them, quote unquote, without hurting them. There's one great scene where Fang tries to kill her babies and Spear jumps in front of her like, no, like these are your youngins, don't fight them, don't hurt them, and she just smacks him out of the way. While this is happening, the volcano erupts and the ground begins breaking apart with lava rising up everywhere. Because of the ground breaking, the tribal leader on top of the mountain falls and drops the baby, and Spear jumps to save her, and he does. This was such a nice moment because Spear is now finally holding his daughter for the first time just after saving her, and looks into her eyes and she looks at him. So good. The next scene is Mira jumps and tries to get Spear, and Spear, while holding the baby, steps back, and there's this scary / awesome moment where she claws at them and she just briefly scratches the baby's forehead, and the baby starts crying loudly. Mira hears this and freezes, recognizing that the child's scream is like it's hers, is her baby, and she snaps out of the trance and she mutates back into her former self and reunites with Spear and their daughter. Such an awesome moment. During this, Spear notices a spear that's falling in the lava. He picks it up and notices that there's lava on the tip of the spear. He stabs and pokes one of the baby Rexes with it, and the shock of the hot lava makes them go back to their normal selves. He does that with the other one, and voila, both of them are back to normal and they embrace each other with that sibling bond again. Spear tries to do this with Fang, but it doesn't work since she's bigger. He keeps trying and eventually backs up onto a cliff and falls, and then Fang's eyes start to turn normal, and we see Spear fall, and he stops, he looks up, and Fang has grabbed him and throws him up over her like her shoulders are back, and then we get this awesome fucking shot of Spear on top of Fang like we've seen many times before on the show. Look how awesome this shot is though, the lava in the background, everything these two have been through together, especially this season with being separated, and now they're finally back, one badass team again. So fucking good. The team then regroups and runs back home away from the danger. The next scene is arguably the best ending we could have hoped for. Spear wakes up in his bed back home, looks over and sees his daughter sleeping. There's this nice moment where he puts the blanket over her to keep her warm. And he looks at his skull hand and he looks sad because he realizes that this part of him, his hand, will never fully get back to normal. Maybe it will in the future, I don't know if there's going to be another season or not, but as of right now, there's no renewal, so it looks like Spear might be stuck with that hand forever, unfortunately. He walks over to the other house where Fang and the baby Rexes are sleeping, and he looks at the cave paintings he did previously with the mud and decides to add one more. He gets the mud and makes one last painting showing the whole gang, Mira, their daughter, Fang, the two baby Rexes, and himself. He looks at it with a big smile on his face, showing that he finally found his people and his family and his home at last. He looks over and sees Fang sleeping, walks over to her, and decides to sleep on her tail like they did earlier in the show with seasons 1 and 2. Then everyone starts piling on. First the baby Rexes walk over and join the cuddle, then Mira and the baby join in, and we get this cute little moment where the baby climbs on top of everyone and gets to the top and starts sleeping in this dangling position. It's so cute and funny. The whole time this is happening, Fang has had her eyes open watching everyone kind of regroup and start join the cuddle, and once everyone is in, she closes her eye basically saying, "Everyone's safe now, I can sleep peacefully." The ending scene is probably the single most emotional shot of the whole show in my opinion. You see the baby Rexes all grown up, and one of them is being ridden by Spear and Mira's daughter, who's also grown up. Not fully grown up, she looks around like 10 to 15, but she's still a child. Spear and Mira walk up to her and look like proud parents, and then we get the single most emotional shot of the whole show. This frame, right here. The grown-up daughter riding one of the grown-up baby T-Rexes, Fang and the other grown baby T-Rex on the right, while Spear and Mira are in the middle looking like proud parents. This is the best shot to end the show on, or the series if it doesn't get renewed. Everything about this shot is just perfect. Not just being the payoff to this season, but when you look back all the way from the very first episode of season 1, all this shit that this group has gone through, the tease at the end of season 2 with this shot, and now all the stuff they've gone through with season 3. This single shot perfectly sums up everything that the show has been about, family and finding your tribe. Spear and Fang started out as enemies trying to kill each other, and since then they've met Mira. Fang found love and sadly lost it, but gained children in the process, and now Spear and Mira have a daughter. So perfect, man. So fucking perfect. This season was a mixed bag at the start, in my opinion. I didn't know the direction they were going in with Spear dying at the end of season 2, but I trusted Gendy, or Gendi, however it's pronounced, or I think it's Gendy. Sorry if I mispronounce it, but I'm glad I trusted him. This season was a roller coaster of emotion and anticipation because you knew a payoff like this was coming. I don't know if there's going to be a season 4. There hasn't been any official word yet if the show's been renewed, but granted, this season just ended, so it could come in a matter of months. Keep in mind, season 2 was almost 4 years ago, so they still have time to renew it if they decide to. I know Gendy has talked about turning Primal into an anthology series, And that was his plan after season 2, before he had the idea of what to do with Spear with season 3. And honestly, I think turning it into an anthology series going forward would be the best option. I love the show, but more importantly, I love the world that they have created over the past 3 seasons with the show. This world has so much potential for storytelling. The only problem I can see them having is creating new characters that can rival Spear and the others. Not replace them, we don't want that, but I want characters that are on at least the same level as the ones we've come to know and love over the past 3 seasons. Could they continue Spear and Fang's story? Maybe, if they come up with a good story, but honestly, after seeing this ending, I don't want them to. This ending was such a brilliant and poetic ending to Spear and Fang's journey that I don't want them to ruin it. Maybe they can switch it up into an anthology show, take a break from Spear and Fang for a few seasons, create more new memorable characters, we follow them for a few seasons, and then maybe the new characters in Spear and Fang have to team up for some, badass finale. That could be cool. As of right now though, I think it'd be best for Spear and Fang's journey to end here with this amazing and emotion-filled season, but more importantly, this poetic and emotion-filled shot.